5 of Nicomachean Ethics is broken into 11 sections. This book mostly concerns justice, and Section 1 analyzes justice and injustice. Aristotle links justice to the law. Justice is a state, and people in this state want to do just actions. It's the lawful and the fair. Injustice includes whatever is lawless and unfair. The unjust person, an overreacher, wishes for the wrong kinds of goods. One important application of justice is maintaining happiness in a political community by creating laws for the common good, which involve virtue in relation to other people. Justice is the complete exercise of complete virtue, since how a man acts toward other people is the true test of his virtue. In Section 2, Aristotle discusses special injustice, actions that arise solely from injustice and not from other vices. Although just and law-abiding behaviors are likely to coincide, it's possible, especially in a corrupt political system, for laws to be unjust or immoral. This is why Aristotle qualifies that good people are not by definition every sort of good citizen. In Section 3, distributive justice relates to equality of distribution. Should two people receive equal shares of goods? Depends on whether the two people are equal or not. If they're not, they should each receive a proportionate amount according to their worth. Here, justice is proportion. In Section 4, rectificatory justice, or justice involving transactions, aims to make situations right by restoring them to a state of equality. In the Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle defines equality as a major aspect of justice. Equals should be treated equally. A judge arbitrating a dispute between two people will consider the harm and suffering inflicted on the victim and the profit earned by the offender. A verdict will make their fortunes equal. In Section 5, reciprocity, or mutual exchange, is a form of justice involving the economic exchange in communities. Rectificatory justice concerns how to handle a situation where distributive justice has gone wrong. Rectify means to make right. Aristotle compares reciprocity to the eye for an eye, or principle of retaliation in law, often used to make offenders compensate victims fairly for damages. True reciprocity, Aristotle says, should consider the context of the offense and the status of the offender, as well as whether the action was voluntary. He then describes how reciprocity works in the daily commerce or business dealings of a city. A just person will award himself and others what is proportionally equal without favoring himself. Injustice, like character vices, concerns excess and deficiency. Anyone who receives too little good as a result has suffered injustice at the hands of an unjust person. In Section 6, political justice involves the law governing free and equal people. The judicial process distinguishes the just from the unjust, but it's possible to do injustice or commit an unjust act without being completely unjust. A just community needs a just ruler who will not be corrupted by power. In Section 7, Aristotle explains that political justice has two parts: natural justice and legal justice. Natural justice is unchangeable and equally valid everywhere, while legal justice is valid wherever people have written down laws. In Section 8, Aristotle discusses the distinction between a state of justice and individual actions. Someone can do an unjust action without meaning to, but they do justice or injustice only if their actions are willing and voluntary. A just action done in ignorance or under coercion, for instance, making a payment out of fear, is not justice. Likewise, an unjust action done in ignorance, perhaps striking someone you didn't mean to strike, is error or misfortune. A person is unjust only if they have deliberated and decided to do harm. An unjust person's actions are caused by their principles or fundamental beliefs. In Section 9, Aristotle's arguments reveal that justice even affects one's relationship to oneself. Aristotle wonders, is it possible for someone to endure injustice willingly or receive justice unwillingly? He discusses puzzles, circumstances that don't fit into exact logic. Then he redefines injustice as harming with knowledge of the victim, the instrument, and the way. He gives some examples. It's easy to understand the law, but it's not easy to achieve the state of being just. The truly just person has to learn how actions must be done and how distributions must be made. Acts of injustice also rely on the person's being in a certain state. In Section 10, decency is related to justice, although their connection might not be obvious. Decency involves a certain practical knowledge and compassion. There are situations which no universal rule can correct, not even the law. Some areas of life cannot be legislated at all. A legislator can apply decency through rectification of the law, or adopting the law to fit the demands of the situation, like architects adapt buildings to the shape of a stone. In section 11, Aristotle explores whether a person can inflict an injustice upon oneself or not. It's impossible to suffer injustice willingly, to support his belief that no one can do injustice to oneself. Justice and injustice always involve more than one person.